me off of mute, but okay. You used to take me off of mute, Dion. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. You usually take it off. It's all right. We're not gonna squabble tonight. Even though it's Foolish Finance Fridays. Welcome back. Are y'all out here in these YouTube streets? Are y'all out here? Are y'all watching the playoffs? I think the fellas are watching the playoffs. I don't even know who in the playoffs. I haven't been keeping up. Hadn't even been keeping up. What's going on, Don? How you doing? D in the back, not taking me off of mute. D in the back, not taking me off of mute. You know how she do. Y'all know how she do. You know how she do. Uh, has everybody been investing this week? Have you been buying stocks? This is Foolish Finance Friday. We do talk about finances. Well, we're going to talk about financial decisions. How about that? Foolish financial decisions. Let's say that. Let me get started here. I'm getting everything pulled over so we can just click through. What's going on, Natasha? You got both of those emails, right? Journey to Jasmine, what's going on? Tonight, it might be a little controversial. Tonight might make some people mad. I don't know. Might get you to thinking. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's gonna do something. How about that? It's gonna evoke an emotion. How about that? We're gonna evoke an emotion. All right. So let's start from the top. Um, Risk. How many people take risk in life? All right. This is what the show is for. This is supposed to be our messy Fridays. I'm trying to keep y'all out of the street. Trying to keep y'all out of the street. Right. Trying to keep y'all out of the YouTube streets. So this messy Friday. How many of y'all are taking risk in 2023? Companies are taking risk, most definitely. They letting everybody go. They letting everybody go. Meta got around the layoffs. Lyft has around the layoffs. There are some banks that are getting ready to lay off. Um, everybody's taking a risk here. What risk are you taking this year? Or are you going to be conservative and sit tight? Are you going to be conservative and sit tight? Are you making any investments? Anybody playing options, futures? Anybody in NFTs? Anybody building something? Starting a company? Right? Are you taking risk? And if you're not taking risk, are you growing? Can you have growth without risk? Can you have growth without risk? Hmm. You betting on yourself. That's good. That's a risk. Betting on yourself is a risk. Cause you gotta figure out what you're gonna bet on about yourself. Right? You gotta do a deep analysis of yourself. And if you decide to work with or for a company, that's a risk as well too, right? But can you grow without risk? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. I don't think you can grow without risk. I think you have to have I think you have to take some risk. Now there are levels to risk. I think you have to take some risk in order to grow. That's what I think. But you all let me know. Can you have growth without risk? So I'm gonna read to you some stuff from the stock market. I got it on my paper here. On my, it's not paper. It's a no pamphlet, if you want to say that. So types of risk in the market, right? All right. So it's just titled types of risk, and in this it says market risk. It says sometimes called systematic or systemic. Risk is the risk that changes in the overall market. Let me back it up. Is the risk that changes in the overall market will have an adverse effect on the individual securities, regardless of the company's circumstances, and cannot be diversified. Right? Read it again. Market risk. It is the sometimes called systematic or systemic risk is the risk that changes in the overall market will have an adverse effect on an individual securities regardless of the company's circumstances and cannot be diversified away. Right? Then they have, I'll go down the line of all the things that they have labeled off on here, what they consider risks. Interest rate risk, unsystematic risk, regulatory risk, legislative risk, political risk, sovereign risk, liquidity risk, currency risk, and opportunity cost. Now, I said I'm giving you all of that, and I'll go through and give you the definitions as well. At some point in time, all those risks affect you in some way or another. What's not on here is in employment risk, but housing risk is on here when they're talking about the interest rate, right? So I don't know of any time we don't face risk, right? I don't know of any time we don't face risk. Now the question is, and it always goes back to how much risk are you willing to take? Are you going to be conservative? Are you going to be moderate? Are you going to be aggressive? Right? What is your risk? When you move into a new city, is that a risk? If you move into a new house or a new apartment, is that a risk? When you buy a new car, is that a risk? Right? It may be a necessity, but it's still a risk, right? You get an insurance. You have to get insurance, right? Depending on how you buy your car here, right? So you risk. I don't think you can grow without risk. I think risk is something that happens to you every single day. Like, I don't know if have you all watched the car videos where a car is driving down the street and lightning has just randomly struck the car as it's riding down the street, right? So you can ride down the street and lightning randomly strike your car. You can ride down the street and a meteorite could hit your car, right? So I think we can't say that we can grow without risk. I think risk is just a part of life. Some take riskier challenges than others, and then some just kind of stay the median course, if that makes sense, right? Natasha, I'm glad this group has helped you to grow. I'm glad. Donna, you leaning towards aggressive, but aggressive in what way, right? Is that aggressive in your training? Is that aggressive in learning? Is that aggressive in spending? Is that aggressive in um, or being a risk with helping others, right? Right. So just a little something there to think about, right? All right, so interest rate risk is the risk of changes to the market value of interest in sensitive securities, such as debt, preferred stock, when the interest rates change. When the rates go up, prices go down, and vice versa. The longer the duration, the greater the risk, right? The longer the duration, the greater the risk, right? So the longer you're in a market, the more that you gain over time, right? The market is a gain over time. But there are some things that in the market that you don't have to gain over time, right? Some things in the market you don't have to wait over time. When I say over time, meaning a long-term play, long-term play, all right? Inflation, all right? Inflation risk, which is your purchasing power. We're living in inflation right now, so we're we have risk whether we want it or not, right? Inflation risk is the risk that the value of the currency unit will fall. So when the principal is returned to the investor, its purchasing power will be decreased. Fixed income securities are most susceptible to this, right? Inflation risk, right? We living in that right now. So now it behooves you to have more skills, earn more money to make the same money. Basically, that's really what that boils down to, right? And if you really look at how things are moving, to me, just I think we're kind of more like at a standstill. That's my thought process. I think everybody is like at a standstill, waiting to see what's going to happen, or what's the next bank that's going to fail, right? What next company is going to get bought? What companies are going to combine? What companies are going to go bankrupt? Who needs to get bailed out? What is the housing market going to look like? People are still buying. Those that got it got it. Those that don't. How many more renters are you going to have? How many more apartments are you going to create? I think making of as many apartments and multifamily units is going to come back to bite us in the long term eventually. Eventually, I think as Gen Z, millennials, Gen Y get older, they're gonna want more. They don't want right now. They don't want a house right now, but I can see them wanting real estate, not necessarily to live in, but to hold. But to hold. It may be multifamily units, but I could see an individual house, a single family home, or a duplex or something like that. Right. All right. The next one is uh, they call it unsystematic, a non-systematic risk. This is the risk of a specific to a particular security. The best example is business risk. It is based upon management decisions, competition, and product deficiencies, and is independent of the general market. This risk can be diversified. So, with all the layoffs, what we say that is a non systematic risk, where the best example is business risk. It is based upon management decisions, competition, and product deficiencies, right? So, they call it layoffs. Here they're saying that could be, to me, the way I interpret that is that's a management decision. It's also a business decision, and it is independent of the general market. We're doing this to save ourselves. We're doing this to save ourselves, right? The next one is regulatory risk. This is the risk that changes to regulations. Think about the EPA and can cause financial distress to corporate earnings. We know about that regulatory risk. We see that with TikTok, right? Regulatory and compliance. We see that with TikTok. We see regulatory. risk all the time. We see that all the time. GDPR, how companies work with data. We see this all the time, right? So that's another one. Is your data on your phone at risk? Is your email at risk? It's risk all around you. When you go to tap your card at Starbucks, or you tap your card to pay for gas, you're running a risk, right? Every day. We it's at this point I just think some things are just inherent. All right, legislative risk. It's the risk that legal changes, think tax increases, can cause financial distress to corporate and personal earnings. Right? Political risk is the risk that political upheavals, such as a coup, we saw that on the Capitol, huh? Or naturalization of industry will have a negative effect upon an investment, right? And then we have sovereign risk, liquidity risk, and currency risk, and opportunity cost. So I just wanted to give you risk and have you think about what risk do you take every single day? What risk do you have in your life? How to mitigate that risk? How do you bounce back from that risk? Again, I always tell you to think yourself as a business plan. What's your disaster recovery plan with the risks that you have in your life? Right? What is your disaster recovery plan with your risks that you have in your life? Do you have a failover in this situation? If one car fails, do you have a backup plan? Do you have the proper things in place, such as insurance, rental car, the location of of getting that car serviced? If a mechanic, excuse me, is out, do you have a backup mechanic? Tire coverage, key coverage. Um, if you had to switch jobs, do you have a company in mind where you could switch jobs? Right? Do you have a company in mind where you could switch jobs? Risk. All right. So now let's get into it. The man that has made the risk, Elon Musk. Elon Musk loses $12.6 billion in a single day as Tesla shares tumble and SpaceX rockets explode. 12.6 billion. Did he have some risk out there on 420 day? On his 420 day, right? On his 420 day. All right, so let's get into the article. All right, let me blow that up some. All right. So a $12.6 billion chunk was hacked off of Elon's Musk wealth pile on Thursday after shares of Tesla saw their biggest one-day loss since the start of the year, adding drama as SpaceX rockets exploded after blasting off in Texas. The date, of course, was 420, which for years has been marked by Musk with cannabis references often appearing to attempt humor. The net worth of Tesla's 1.28% CEO, who for a time owned the top rank among the world's wealthiest, stood at 164 billion on Thursday, according to Bloomberg's billionaire index. He's now number two in terms of wealth, well behind Bernard Arnault, we know from LVMH. Um, let's see, and he's worth 211 billion. Musk nearly 13 billion wealth plunge on Thursday was the sharpest one day drop for him, Bloomberg reported. Disappointment over the electric car makers' quarterly margins and a pledge by the company to keep cutting automobile sticker prices triggered an exodus of Tesla stock, which dropped 9.7%, almost 10% drop. The market cap on, oh, sorry, no, that's something else. Musk wealth surged at the start of the year at Tesla shares rebounded amid a broader bounce for technology stocks after their tumble for favor in 2022, but the trajectory since February has been bumpy. A dark day for Tesla shares on Thursday coincided with the drama of Musk's unmanned SpaceX Starship rocket, which exploded minutes after launching. His wealth is spread across his businesses, with Tesla accounting for 67 billion, and his share of SpaceX estimated to be worth about 48.9 billion, according to Bloomberg. Twitter, which he bought for 44 billion on Thursday, removed the blue check marks from most verified accounts whose owners had opted out not to pay the $8 a month. Verification had for a decade and a half before Musk's takeover of Twitter served as service to users who could be confident that the blue checked accounts, whether operated by politicians, celebrities, companies, publications, or journalists, and have been verified as owned by people whose names were on them. Right. So he lost basically almost $13 billion, and he's been making risk and taking risk as well too, right? So those risks that he's taken over time have been government contracting, moving headquarters, building underground trains, underground railroads, uh, 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 research, AI, machine learning, data, space, satellites, everything that I've ever talked about, he's dipped his toe in, and that dip of that toe is the risk that he takes, um, and also the risk that the company and people that he worked for take as well too. So the question becomes is, do you take risk like Elon Musk? Has anybody studied the risk that he has taken and how he's able to take the risk, right? My old adage is just do it and then ask for forgiveness later. Is what I normally see. Everybody takes the risk, they just go do it and then they ask for forgiveness later. All right. Many people have spoken on trying to have people pay for Twitter in a capacity and stated how that wasn't the best idea. Yeah, but outside of that, he's amassed 164 billion, give or take a couple of billion here and there on the day, right? So now the question becomes to you, and I ask to you, what risk are you willing to take for the next, I don't know, let's say 3 years, right? You get an idea, you research it, you try it and fail fast, right? What area are you willing to fail fast in? What area do you think you need to do more research in? Do you hire out and let the people who already know how to do it, and then you go do something else? All right. Fail fast. All right. So let's get into this. All right. So here, since you're thinking about that, right? I looked up. This is coming from 2021. There's some newer ones, but this one's is from 2021. The 22 most foolish financial decisions ever made. The 22 most foolish financial decisions ever made. All right. It says foolishness can be a great learning tool. It could, or it could be to the detriment of you. It may not be something that you can never recover. I was reading online today or some guy did something and he had to pay back a company, and the company sued him for $14.5 million. And so that means that $14.5 million he's got to pay for the rest of his life. No matter what he do, where he go, he got to pay back that 14.5 million. Right? What's going on, Code and Evelyn? And that is correct, Natasha. Fail means or failing means the first attempt, and it's the first attempt in learning. Yeah, that's one too. Right, that's another way to look at it. Right. So let's look at the 22 mistakes. What is foolish to one person is wise to another. Right. So here, let me blow it up some. Didn't ask for help with investments. Didn't ask for help with investments. I don't think I have to read what that means, but seeking out advice from a financial advisor, doing your own research, learning how to read a prospectus, learning what how to research a company, learning what that is going to help you, right? But don't sit on the sidelines and not do anything and make an investment into something. Even if you're conservative and you know that your risk tolerance is to be conservative, and you're like, I'm just gonna take $100,000 and I'm gonna leave it in the money market account for 10 years, whatever that is, or I'm gonna buy me some CDs or some bonds or whatever the case may be, right? Don't forget, I bonds go down at the end of this month. They're 6.89. I think they're supposed to go to 3.89 or 3.49 at the end of this month. So get your I bonds on, right? Everybody get your I bonds on. Everybody get your I bonds on, right? So too much housing debt and spending. Too much housing debt and spending, right? A lot of times you go out and you live in a community where you're like, oh, I ain't had no space growing up, and so you go get the big house. You go get the 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square foot house, and it's you in there by yourself, or it's you and one other person, or it's you and the kids, but the kids getting ready to leave, or whatever the case may be, right? All right, the next one up is panic selling. We see the market dropping. I'm about to sell. I'm about to get out now, right? So learning how to read charts, learning how to set your losses, like your stop losses, if it fall below this, set that up and hop into another trade or whatever. Just understanding how to use your actual tools that you have will also help you as well too. Take the classes that they have in these M1 Finance or Interactive Brokers or whatever the case may be. Take the classes. Just sit down and take the classes. What's going on, Smart Money Chick? Right? Word about investment losses. This one says Jill lost a significant portion of her savings in 2008 financial crisis and worried tremendously, only realizing later that her concerns were unfounded. Luckily, she held her onto her holdings and they regained their value. Right? Word about investment losses. Exercise stock options too early. Exercising your stock options too early. Some of you have stock options with these companies, and you haven't sat down with uh, a place like Carta or whoever's holding the stocks or whatnot. I think Carta just kicked everybody off their platform. But go talk to them because they'll let you know whether or not should you be exercising your options. What does it mean? The why you should, why you shouldn't, and on top of that, what will be your tax liability to exercise those options. So seek the help that's already given to you within those companies, especially if you own stocks, and understand what the ramifications by exercising those options are, and what's the pros and the cons, basically. So look at that. Uh, Married the wrong spouse. You married the wrong spouse. In fact, you did not have a financial conversation with that spouse, with that person before you all got married. You just got married, you did it, and you went on about your business. And you was like, let the chips fall where they may. Y'all was outside. It was like y'all was outside, y'all was playing dice, and you was like, yeah. 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven, right? That's what that sounds like to me, right? So you married the wrong spouse. And here's the thing about marrying the wrong spouse. You don't know that you married the wrong spouse. Sometimes you don't know 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years. You don't know, right? You don't know. People change throughout time. People change throughout time. But you can ask questions. Buying new cars, buying new cars. I do it all the time. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. Buying new car. Well, let me take it back. I buy used cars with low mileage. How about that? I buy used cars with low mileage. So the depreciation is already gone from the car. That's what I do. Right? All right. Investing in unknown or little known companies. Right? You didn't do your research. That's how I look at that one. You didn't contribute to your Roth IRA or your 401k. You didn't contribute. No contributions. You don't even know what you're contributing to. You ain't even looked at it. Right? Falling for scams. Falling for scams. Right? Bad real estate deals. Bad real estate deals. Again, that goes down to research. And if you're not sure, you can look at things on what's that one? Arrived Homes Ground Floor, Crowd Street. There's a ton of them out there. I think it's called The Republic is another one where you can look at day trading and short selling. Here we go. Options, day trading, swing trading, short selling. Here we go. Right? Using emotion to make a financial decision. Using emotions to make a financial decision. Another one, bad timing on vacation home purchase. Bad timing on vacation home purchase. Not starting a HSA plan, a health savings account, not invest into it. Maybe you have one, but you don't invest into it. Spent too much before retirement. Ball. Right? Sold stocks too early. Trying to be a stock picker. Skipped family vacations. You skipped them, right? It says here, Pat regrets we skipped our annual family vacation 2 or 3 times because I didn't think we could afford it. Stupid though, experiences are priceless, right? Lending money to friends, claiming Social Security before 62, right? And last but not least, stop saving and investing when young. Those that that want to have children invested in the market, you can do that now. You can buy them slices, like you buy pizza slices every time you buy some food outside of cooking. Take that money and put it into a market for a child or for yourself, whatever the case may be, right? Natasha say my mom wanted to kill my dad. He stayed buying new cars. Your dad was like, I gotta be, she's so fresh, she's so fresh. Exciting. Your dad wanted to be fresh. All right. So let's get over to this one. Um, let's look at this. This is from December of 9th of 2022. The household wealth dropped by $13.5 trillion. Household wealth dropped by $13.5 trillion. From January to September is the second worst destruction on record. $13.5 trillion. Who you think that affected the most? Who you think that affected the most? Household wealth dropped by 13.5 trillion. Elon Musk lost 12.6 billion. Household wealth dropped by 13.5 trillion. All right? So let's get into it. So let me see. This right here is showing you from 2003 all the way to 2022. right? So we had a run. We had a good run here. We was on a run. Households was earning. We were on a run. Boom, boom. We had a little dip. We had a little dip. We had a little dip. 2019, 2020, up, 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 and now we're dropping back down, right? Gonna drop, right? American households lost 6.8 trillion in wealth over its first 3 quarters of 2022, right? It lost 6.8 trillion in wealth, right? The nominal net worth fell 4.6% from 143 trillion as the market value of assets fell by 6 trillion and liabilities rose by 900 billion. Assets over liabilities. Households balance sheets, assets minus liabilities, were propped up by 10% increase in home equity, which is the greatest source of wealth for most American families. This goes back into one of the things I keep hearing about is don't buy a house, because a house, if you're not renting it out, it's not earning you money. Yes, it'll earn you equity. It helps you with your net worth. When you have a higher net worth and when you have more assets versus liabilities, the banks tend to favor you more. They like you. They're like, oh, if anything, we can come get your house. If anything, we can come get your house, right? So you can listen to the rhetoric out here that people tell you not to buy a home. Ladies, y'all can listen to that if you want to, right? Fellas, you can listen to that if you want to, you know, but go get you something. I'm just telling you. Leverage. Always think of leverage, risk and leverage, right? Then nobody say you had to live in it. Go buy you some land. Then nobody say you had to live on it. Keep it up, right? All right, it says, but the loss in real wealth from January through September was twice as large as the nominal loss of 13.5 trillion in current dollars. After accounting for a rapid inflation experienced this year, the inflation makes both debts and liabilities worthless in terms of purchasing power. The 8.6 drop in real wealth over 3 quarters is the second fastest decline, excuse me, on record. The only greater drop was following the 2008 and 2009 crisis. The wealth lost during the Great Depression of the 1930s would likely hold the record if we had the data. Balance sheets are healthy for now, and again, this was in 2022. Like this is a report from 2022. The household's balance sheets in the aggregate remain in excellent shape despite the losses on Wall Street and the erosion of the purchasing power. Wealth as a share of annual disposable after tax personal income slipped slightly to 769%, not far off the record of 825% in the first quarter of the year. The 18.8 trillion liabilities were just 103% of the annual disposable incomes, far below the 136% peak of 2008, right? It says homeowners in particular were in good shape financially as September ended, with the equity in their houses rising near 70.5%. So that tells me people who were in real estate during this time gained in their net worth. They gained in their net worth, right? But if the home prices continue to fall as they have done in the past several months, homeowners without much exposure to the stock market will begin to feel poor. What will happen to the home prices as the mortgage rates rise and a major unknown facing policy makers and homeowners alike? Taking on more debt is another issue, the warning signs, so forth and so on. Let me scroll through here. Follow the money if you can. One of the biggest unknowns in an economy today is how much savings typical families have to fall back on in a time if times get tougher. Like, do you have a disaster recovery plan? Under one set of assumptions, the typical family in the bottom half of the wealth rankings has about $10,000 ready in cash equivalents. That doesn't pass the smell test for me, considering how many people live paycheck to paycheck. But we already know that they said most people only have $1,000 in savings. You only have $1,000 in savings, right? So again, we see these risks out here, right? All right, so now let's get into some risks that people have taken. Now it's time to be messy. Let's get it. All right, let's not do that one. Let's do this one. The Moneyest. This came out on February 2020, 2023, and 20 and then 22 happened. I borrowed $500,000 from friends and family to invest in the stock market, foolishly promising a 10% return. Can I avoid legal action? He he more than likely, I haven't read it, borrowed $500,000 from friends and family to invest in the stock market. And he can't make that return to pay it back. I'm assuming it's a he, right? I'm assuming it's a he. We about to be messy today. Y'all ready for petty tea time? I got some more petty, but we're gonna break up the petty. We're gonna break it up. We're gonna be serious. We're gonna get petty, and then we're gonna be serious. Then we're gonna get petty. All right. So borrowed $500,000 from friends and family to invest in the stock market, and it says, "Now can I avoid legal action?" All right, let's get into it. I'm a budding options futures trader with my own sole proprietary investment business. Heading into 2022, I took a large cash infusion of 500,000 from friends and family under the guise of a promise I made to issue a 10% return on their money. The promise was made via a signed promissory note, and the return was less than the annual return I had been experiencing years before. And then 2022 happened. It was extremely bad year for the markets and the worst I'd seen. I had been actively trading. Needless to say, I was I was not able to make due on my promise, and I am not in a place where I have funds left to pay back those friends and family. I ain't got it, Sway. I ain't got the answer, Sway. I spent it, Sway. Yeah. So what risk is this? What risk is this? Is this market risk? Is this a business risk? What risk is this? Is it a liquidity risk? A liquidity risk is the risk that an investment cannot be turned into cash quickly without significantly lowering the prices. So it's not a liquidity risk. Is it a currency risk? No, it's an opportunity cost. It gives an example. The 90-day treasury bill is currently yielding 6%. An investor decides to purchase a stock with an expected return of 11%. If the stock actually returns 2%, the opportunity cost is 4%. So is it an opportunity cost? Is it a market risk? You tell me, right? You tell me. I'm going with market risk is the risk that changes in the overall market will have an adverse effect on the individual security, regardless of the company's circumstances, and cannot be diversified away. That's market risk. You tell me. But he can't pay their money back. All right. So, needless to say, I was not able to make due on my promise, and I'm not in a place where I have funds left to pay back those friends and family. This has severely fractured some of my relationships I valued the most and put my friends and family in a stressful situation. Right? It's a foolish finance risk. Right? He should cash his child's 529 plan and play part of it. All right, let's go. I still plan to make financial restitution to everyone, but since then I have to rebuild my finances almost from scratch. The question I have is twofold. What's the best way to mend and repair the relationship with friends and family? And to what extent can I be faced with punitive legal action? Your advice is greatly appreciated. All right. This is a time to tell the truth and admit your mistakes. Eat a lot of humble pie and tell your friends that you will put together a payment plan to repay them in full. Promissory notes are typically used in real estate, automobile, college, and or personal loans. Investing in the markets is a long-term bet. Timing the market is a fool's game. The decade-long bull market instilled a false sense of confidence in millions of small investors and meme stock aficionados, as you have learned at a cost. You're not the only one who is licking their wounds after a brutal year, but you obviously complicated events for yourself. They willingly gave up their money for you to invest, but there are a series of laws governing securities, laws governing the securities industry, and you also took the extra step of signing a promissory note, which leaves you open to legal action, right? And so, what I was reading from you today, and while I did that, I was reading the securities quick cheat sheet, right? A quick sheet. It's a cheat sheet though, but that was a reason. This was one of the reasons leading up to this, right? It's one of the reasons that was leading up to this. Um, so they had this. They signed the promissory notes. So they effectively lending you money with a 10% rate of return. As a result, they can file a lawsuit against you, report you to the debt collection agency, even call in any assets you have put up for collateral against these loans. A promissory note, as it names suggests, is a legally binding promise to repay a debt. This is a good time to take a closer look at the notes you signed to ensure that they are enforceable. Most promissory notes have terms that ensure they are valid. They must be deemed fair to both parties and be signed by both parties. The state and state the exact amount of the money borrowed in addition to the interest rate, the frequency of the payments, and the loan terms. So those of you that go around signing promissory notes, you need to understand what it is, what is in it, what somebody is supposed to be paying you out at, what quarterly, monthly, whatever that is. And I would even take it one step further and get it signed. What's the word? Notarized or get it notarized, right? All right, so let's go. Rules of a promissory note vary by state. Enlist the help of securities law attorney before taking action and before making any other promises that you may not be able to follow through upon. You are vulnerable, but so are they. In other words, they will want their money back, and putting a plan in place to repay the money, even in small increments, with the hope that they would increase, could help deter them from taking legal action against you, at least for now. All right. The Security Exchange Commission, the SEC, warns people against buying unregistered securities, which potentially could be the case here. The SEC says people should be on the lookout for common signs of potential fraud before investing in an unregistered offering. Those red flags include claims of high returns with little or no risk, unregistered investment professionals, aggressive sale tactics, problems with sales documents, unsolicited investment offers, among others. Stock market returns are highly unpredictable, and you should expect wild fluctuations from time to time. According to the recent report according to the recent report by management consulting company McKinsey, since about 1800, stocks have consistently returned on 6.5 to 7% per year after inflation, according to an analysis by McKinsey economists. What's more, their analysis concluded that the market returns over the past 25 years are within the historical range. However, there are annual expectations. And they go on to talk about the S&P 500 with XPX fell in 2001, 2002, 2008, and 2022. Don't get sidetracked by the short-term stock movements which tend to stir up lots of headlines. Reasonably and largely stable returns will encourage more individuals to invest in the stock market. That in turn will provide capital for more growth and broader creation of wealth. Let this be a warning. Don't make promises of guaranteed return, regardless of what you or whether you're borrowing money from strangers or family or friends. So 500,000, half a million that he got from friends and family. And I don't think this person has a job either. They don't have a job either. So somebody's gonna have to Uber and Lyft, Uber Eats. They're gonna have to start Instacart, start delivering some groceries, something to get that money back. Plus, they don't have no money either. They don't have no reserves. You can't borrow $500,000 from people and you ain't got a million in reserves. So if something goes in the stock market, you could just break them off their 500,000. You still have 500,000. You keep that for yourself, right? You know, you could borrow 500,000 from your million and keep that to yourself, right? So if you go borrow 500,000, you should at least have that sitting in reserve. Like, oh, I'm just confident I'm just gonna make this back. All right. That ain't cool. All right, let's get serious. Black women and investing. Let's hit it. Petty tea time. I got a couple of things we're gonna talk about here. And this is from, you can see the SEC, Black women and investing. Right. All right. This came out last year. Well, not last year, but last month. It may have been last month. I'm not sure. It don't have a date on it. All right, here we go. I'm gonna skip down here. The income gap between white women and black women is closing, as black women are now earning 85% of what white women earn, but are not maximizing their income possibilities. Jones added that the black community has a spending power of over 1 trillion, but most of it flows through the community, i.e., spending it rather than contributed in the 401k or invested in wealth generating strategies. Nearly 60% of Black women are not invested in anything. Read that again. Nearly 60% of Black women are not invested in anything. You say you can't see the link? I don't know what you mean when you say you can't see the link. Oh, you mean you can't see the link up there. Oh, I don't know which link you're looking for, but here you go. All right. So when we look at this, so what I hear, what I'm reading is you'll have a Fidelity account, but you won't put $5 into it. You'll have an Edward Jones account and you won't put $5 into it. You'll have a 401k, but you won't put nothing into it. You'll have an HSA and you won't put $5 into it. What are we doing? What are we doing? Don't worry, brothers. I got you on in the hopper too. I got facts on you too. Right? So 60% of black women are not invested in anything, said Jones, and this creates a problem not just for the current generation, but the subsequent generation. Jones also said there are three main reasons why black women do not invest: lack of money, lack of confidence and knowledge, and aversion to risk. So let's get this straight. We'll research where we can get uh, a nice plate, and we'll research where we can find a nice pair of shoes. We'll research where we can find where we can get a nice pair of clothes or a good vacation, but we won't invest in our own selves. $5. I'm just asking every month. Put in $5. I better get every pay period. Put $5 into a slice or a what is it called in Edward Jones? I mean, not Edward Jones, but in Charles Schwab, slices, whatever the case it is. $5. DCA your way in. $5. $5. That's all I'm asking. $10 a month. Feed the children. $10 a month. Feed the children. Right. But the reason why we not informed, because we're not communicating to each other that, right? We don't have these conversations. I just think overall the black community don't have this conversation, period. Anytime we start talking about it, I'm listening to different podcasts and I hear men over here saying, don't tell your wife that you're having financial problems, or don't tell her you making investments, and don't tell her you make this much money, and don't tell your wife none of this. And then women over here like, don't tell him how much money you make, and don't tell him this thing. And I'm like, well, I reported on this months ago. The Hispanics have surpassed us in wealth. I said that 6 months ago. It came back around again. Here we are again having this same conversation. We're like, oh, I'm risk adverse. Hell, it ain't even risk adverse. You're not even investing. That ain't even risk adverse. It's just like I ain't even putting up $5 away for myself. What you do, like your grandmama do, take it and roll that $100 bill up into a knot and put it inside of a sock and then stick it in the back of the drawer or something like that? Like, what you doing? Right? All right. It also says there is a perception that you need an entire salary, for example, almost $50,000 in extra income to invest, which is not the case. For example, research study noted that if someone invested $30 a month into the S&P 500 over 120 months, their initial 3,600 investment would have grown $8,000, 122% return. Daniels told the audience not to be afraid of risk. The way to generate wealth is to put the money in the market, not just certificates of deposits or savings accounts, right? According to Jones, financial literacy has dropped by nearly 10% since the Great Recession, but there are many tools available from the SEC to help. Help.investor.gov gives the first time and seasoned investors good advice on how to invest safely, and the tools such as Edgar can give people information on company performance to make seasoned investing decisions, right? A recording of this event. So there's a recording for this event right here. Some video right here. Black women in investing is 57 minutes long. They just gave a brief synopsis of it there. Right. So it's 57 minutes long. I'll probably listen to it later on just to get just to get some idea of what else was said in that video. But I wanted to bring that up. All right. This comes out of Charles Schwab. And let me see if I can make this bigger. And we're going to blow this up some. All right. This is from 2021. This data was collected from December the 1st of 1 through 14. And this comes from Charles Schwab, the Black Investor Survey. Additional findings based on race, gender, and age, right? Oh, that's not a good stat. It's not a good stat at all. Like I say, all you all have female friends. Have a discussion with them and say, hey girl, have you invested in the stock market? Have you put $5 away? Can you just put $5 away? Don't go buy that Wendy's sandwich. Don't go buy that Wendy's combo. Don't go buy that pizza. Don't go buy that soul food. Don't go buy that vegan food. Just put $5 away. We starting small here. We're starting small. We're starting small, right? Just a small little something, something, right? All right, let's get back to it. So this is Ariel Schwab Black Investor Survey. So this is Ariel Investments and Charles Schwab came together for this. Ariel Investments. Do y'all know who that is? Put in the chat who is Ariel Investments. All right. All right. Who is Ariel Investments? Stick with the blue chips. Stick with the aristocrats and stick with the kings. They're increasing dividends over 25 and 50 years. Stick with those $5 to let me do this. Coca-Cola. If you want to do it like if you want to invest like Warren Buffett, do like Warren Buffett. Right? Do $5. It's not that hard. You should be doing it right now. You can do investments on Cash App. You can do investments on Cash App. Right? You can do investments on Cash App. Yeah, most people are like, why you trying to get in my business? And when they say that, be like, okay, bye. Keep it pushing. Them ain't the people that you need to be associating with. Like, them ain't your people. They ain't your tribe. They're gonna be the ones sitting on the sidelines. They're gonna be the ones sitting on the sideline. You're gonna be out there on the field, moving and jiving, shaking and oh, touchdown. My $5 turned into 40. My 40 turned into 200. That's who you gonna be. We don't worry about them. All right, so let's get into it. This is going over research objectives, methodology, highlights of the year study, detailed results, and demographic financial profile. All right, I don't know if y'all ready. Like I said, we're gonna be a little serious. So I'm just dropping this on you. Fellas, don't worry. I got you. I got your profile too, right? All right. So this right here, I don't know if you can see it. And blow it up a little more. All right. I gotta bring it back down so I can see it. There we go. Identify similarity and difference between middle Black and white Americans with regards to saving and investing. Examine the factors, particularly past influences, underlying beliefs that may impact how Black and white Americans think about financial matters. Identify and understand the influence of the pandemic on investing trends. Assesses the expectations and the sentiment that Black and white Americans face in their financial future and determine any shifts in attitudes or behaviors that have occurred over time. And this is from 2022, right? So the recruiting criteria was 18 and up, 50,000 plus in income, primary or shared decision maker in for the household and financial decision and mixed genders, right? And it was 2,100 people, 2,104 surveyed. 1,007 were Black and 1,097 of those identifying as white. All right. So let's get into it. The highlights. Only 2/3 of 66%, only 2/3 of women, 66% reported being currently invested in the stock market, compared to 73% of men. White men are most likely of all groups to be invested, and Black women are the least likely. Just 50% of Black women are currently invested, compared to 68% of white women, 63% of Black men, and 74% of white women. Older Black women are missing out on the stock market, right? They're missing out on the stock market growth more than any other group surveyed. Only 41% of older women, of Black women older than 60, report having any money invested in the stock market. So as you get older, you stop working, you're not even having money in the market to have money working for you. So don't do this as you ladies turn older. Men, don't do this as you turn older. Don't not invest in the market. Keep you some money invested in the market, whether it's conservative, I don't care. but make sure you're keeping your money, earning some money while you may be retiring, while you may be on a trip, while you may be sitting at the bingo game. Well, I don't know if they're gonna have Freaknik when you are 65. They may have a Freaknik reunion. I don't know. But if they do have a Freaknik reunion at 65, when you're out there in the car and you're bringing back the oldies and the goodies of the 90s, and Luke comes on and he said, "Don't stop, get it," and you get up in your stroller, make sure you are invested in the stroller company. Make sure you are invested in the diapers, whatever the case may be. Make sure you're invested. Where are the Asians investing? Because they have more wealth. Yeah, I reported on that. Financial Samurai. Financial Samurai. Again, on Financial Samurai, when I reported that, the it for an Asian graduating from high school is the equivalent of a black person with a master's degree in terms of wealth. I reported on that. So an Asian graduating from high school is the equivalent of a black person having a master's degree when it comes to wealth. They're more likely, an Asian is more likely coming out of high school to be a millionaire before a black person would be a millionaire. I reported on that a couple of months ago. It's under Financial Samurai. He did that. I went over that and reported that just to give some highlights on what we're talking about here. We know that going to high school and graduating from high school and graduating from college, just based on purely on data, not on what we speculate, but based on purely data, we know that with graduating from college, we know that you're gonna over time you're gonna out earn someone who graduated from high school. We know that. We've seen that data, right? The data that we're gonna continue to see that's gonna get worse over time is what's going to happen to the people, the 54% that can't read and write. That's 120 million people. That's 120 million Americans. And what is going to happen as AI and machine learning start to pick up and jobs and the evolution of jobs change. How you interview now changes. You don't fly out anymore. Most people now we just do a Zoom and we'll call it good. We ain't got to put you up in a hotel and we ain't got to do all of that. Right? We're gonna Zoom it and call it good. Right? You fly when you get done, we'll have somebody help you pack up your stuff and then get you out here and then we're going about our business. So that's what we're doing now, right? But when you're 60 and you're not in the market and you're probably approaching retirement, you need to have some money working for you somehow, some way, some shape or form. By 2034, their expected Social Security is to be depleted by 2034. What are going to be the measures, legislative measures that government is going to take, whether they're Democrat or they're Republican? What are they going to do for people who retire? Right. The other way to look at this as well too is people who are Gen X and millennials. Gen Z are going to be your caretakers. Gen Z are going to be your caretakers. 92% of nurses are females. 92% of nurses are females. So now the question is this: if even though it's 92% females that are nurses, most of them are leaving as well too due to injury, tired, exhaustion, whatever the case may be. So then there's another factor there. We also don't have enough working population as time goes on. You don't have enough people to work. So automation of healthcare and automation of caretaking is probably what Gen X is going to see. We probably are going to see, like I said before, robotic nurses, AI nurses. We're probably going to see more technology as we get older and less people as well too. We're probably going to see more isolation of people as well too, as we're starting to see now. We already are in this lonely trend where people are not reproducing and they're not dating either. They're not marrying, they're not dating either. So we're going to see more of that as well too. I think you're probably going to see more villages of people where you'll probably see more single people, in particular women, living together more as they get older. Versus, I'm not sure what the mindset of what the men would be. I hope they would group together in a community. You can go search this on YouTube. There are several older men in their 60s and 70s that said they wish they would have had more connections with their friends, with their male friends. You see a lot of those videos where one guy, he said he had called his friends for a couple of days. He hadn't talked to him in a while, and he had been in the dude. His friend had been in the house dead for 4 days, and nobody knew. And we see this over and over and over again. We see this play out over and over again. It's not the fact that no one needs anyone, right? It's not that. It's the fact that you need friendship. You need human contact. You need to have some. I don't care if it's two people. I don't care if it's whatever. You need to have some type of someone checking on you. Now, with that being said, I think that should be an actual app, honestly. Because if people are not going to be friends with each other and they're not going to communicate with family, create an app where people can sign up to be checked on every 2 to 3 days, or do a wellness check app or something like that, where people locally can go by and check on somebody. Hey, we're just calling to make sure you're okay. You didn't answer. You didn't respond. You didn't do this. You didn't do that, right? A wellness app where you get checked on or something of that nature, where you can communicate with people or something of that nature. I think that needs to happen. I'm sure someone's probably already doing it, but those are my thoughts, right? It says women are less likely to have learned about the stock market growing up and more likely to associate negative emotions when investing. All right. On this in this PDF, it says 1/3 of all men, 33% report talking about the stock market growing up. That's 2 times more than all women, 15%, and 3 times more than black women at 11%. When asked about emotions, and when asked about the emotion individuals associate with investing in the stock market, anxiety was one of the top emotions women identified. 37% of women versus 28% of men. More men associate the stock market with optimism at 45% versus 38% for women, and satisfaction for 40% of men and 20% of women. The pandemic effect impacted women differently. 13% of all women dipped into their emergency fund to support themselves during the pandemic versus 8% of the men. This was much higher among black women at 19%. Much higher with women at 19%. Yeah, Dana K. I think having a wellness app where people can like check on someone, maybe even you upload your picture and be like, yeah, I'm feeling good today, or I'm not feeling good today, or you upload your picture and you don't say anything and let AI determine the data points on your face, whether you were happy or sad, and make some recommendations to you. Also, maybe even a phone call, like, hey, this person uploaded their picture on the app, and this is the return, and then not an automated call, but a real human actually calls you to say, hey, um, you don't seem like you're doing okay. Is there something you would like to discuss? Like something like that, where people can still have a human connection, but I get it. Some people don't want to be bothered with other people, but the app is just really there for more like emotional support. And because some people are not going to get emotional support dogs or cats or animals or anything of that nature. They're just going to be who they are, right? So I think having something along that lines would help out. All right. 23% of all women said their financial situation worsened somewhat and substantially during the pandemic. More than half of the women, 55% surveyed, expect their financial situation will stay the same in 2021. Black men are most likely to have added to stock market investments as a direct result of COVID-19's impact on the economy by 30%, 32%, while white women were the least likely at 12%. Almost one third of Black women talked to their children about finances during the pandemic, compared to 16% of white women. There is hope on the horizon for the financial service industry. Black women under 40 was just as likely as their white counterparts to be investing in the stock market, 57% to 58%. Yay, yay, right? However, women are less likely to work with a financial advisor, and Black women are least likely of all groups to work with a financial advisor, right? So 37% of men, 30% of women versus 48% of men, and 20% of Black women versus 40% of white women, all right? So what I'm simply saying is this, and I say this all the time on here: take some time, make a $5 investment, go talk to a financial planner, talk to a financial advisor. Even if you say, hey, I'm making plans to put away $1,000 a month, and I want to play this in a conservative, in the market that's conservative, right? Edward Jones, M1 Finance, I don't care who you use, but at least have the conversation first and be like, I want to be conservative and I want to do this, right? And what are some tips I should follow? And set appointments up once a month if you want to. So until you start feeling comfortable with the market and investing and so forth, learn how to read the prospectus, learn how to have that conversation with your friends. Share a Zoom with your friend, like, girl, let's go through this prospectus and what this meant. And I did some markings on it, and let's go through that, right? Let's go through that. All right. Trust remains an issue. 33% of Black women feel that financial firms treat them with respect. That don't seem right. Only 33% of Black women feel like financial firms treat them with respect. Okay. This cuts across genders. Only 35% of Black investors feel that financial services industry treats them with respect versus 62% of white investors, right? So that's why I tell you to read first, ask your questions, look those things, write down your questions and go look them up. So when you get on the phone with people and you start asking, so I had a question about this on page two, paragraph B. I have it highlighted here. This is what I had. Now, this is my understanding. And I went and did some research here, and here's what I looked up, and here's your definition. I just want to make sure that this is what this is saying. I'm interpreting this correctly, right? It also says this feeling of disrespect may be impacting opinions of the financial industry. Nearly one quarter of Black women say that the financial institutions are untrustworthy. This number increases among Black women under 40. 71% of Black women agree there are not enough Black role models in the financial community. However, 39% of white women agree with this statement as well. I don't know. Do you need to see a Black woman that looks like you investing in the community? I think there's still a level of trust there. I think there's still a level of trust. Following the pandemic, only 14% of women received advice from a financial professional compared to 24% of men. And so they gave some detailed results right here. Among 60, among the age of 60, it says his stock market investor said, do you personally have any money invested in the stock market right now, either in an individual stocks or in the stock market fund or ETF? White men across the board and above 60 was 74%. Black men, 63%. But as you get older, you come out of the market. White women, 68%. As they got older, they went into the market. Black women across the board, and as you got older, you came out of the market. So it's the same trend that we're seeing with Black men and Black women. The older you get, you're coming out of the market. So there's some miseducation that's happening or there's something going on there, right? Emotions associated with the stock market. Which of the following emotions do you associate with investing? So here go men and women. They went down the list here. Confusion was with women at 26%. Anxiety was high for women at 37%. And so was optimism at 38%. I'm going to kind of gather that's probably more white women there based upon this study here. As a direct result of COVID 19's impact on the economy, which of the following have you done or experienced? Dipped into the emergency fund. So black men and black women are about the same. You dipped into your emergency fund during the pandemic. They're about the same, 18% to 19%. All right. As a direct result of C19's impact on the economy, which of the following have you done or experienced? Added to the stock market, added to the stock market investment. It looks like black women uh, under 40 is what we're getting here. You black women beat out white women when investing into the stock market. As we get older, 40 to 59, 16% and 60 plus, right? They added to their investments. Black women was like, right? That's what I'm seeing here. And if we look here, white men and white women, and then black men. Black men, y'all beating the white men, according to this one, right? As a director of C19 impacts on the economy, which of the following have you done or experienced? Talk to my children. Uh-oh. Y'all see that? Y'all see that? Who winning? Any lies detected on this? You were talking more? You know what I mean? You were talking more? All right. Do you expect your situation to stay the same? All right. Do you expect your situation to stay the same? Of course, most all women, white women, black men, right here. All right. And there's more to this study. I'm not gonna go through everyone, but they gave their demographic profile here. I think this is more of the data you wanted to see here. Um, the average age was 50 years for Black Americans and 54 years for white Americans. It looked like they had around most people for the white Americans was 65 and older. That was a large chunk. For the Black Americans, looked like it was evened out here. Here, if we go look at employed full time and retired, more retired on the white American side, and household income on average was 94K for Black Americans and 111K for white Americans. Not too bad. Black Americans look like the large percentage was 50 to 75K, but up here at 100 to 150K was 18%, right? And that was out of what, 1,000 something or 2,000 something, something like that. All right, it says the total value savings and investing on average it was 146,000 compared to whites was 381,000. Right? Somebody in the group were close to millionaires and 2% were millionaires, but 12% of whites were millionaires. Right? Let's look at education here. On the education side, we got 40% that were college graduates, 37% that were college graduates, black, white, by even there. All right. I like them numbers. And postgraduate study, 23%, 33%. right? So that's pretty even on the data side of where they came from. Let me know in the chat what you thought about that presentation. Let me know what you thought. All right. So I wanted to talk about this because this is never ever actually brought up. There's a video that goes to this, so I'll probably do the video. But have y'all ever heard about how 5 American families lost all their wealth? Do you know who's on there on this list? Mr. Founder of Levi's himself is on this list. The Vanderbilts is one, but the founder of Levi's is on this list. Think about how many Levi's have you worn in your lifetime? How many Levi's have you worn in your lifetime? But they lost all their wealth, all their wealth. So let me pull up this video, and we're gonna go back and hold on. Let me give you who it was, and then we'll look at the video. All right. So in this video, let me blow this up because it's a little small for you. The Vanderbilts come out as number one. The Vanderbilts empire. He had amassed $100 million in fortune. $100 million in fortune, and lost it all. All right. The Kluges. Have you ever heard of them? Kluges. The Kluges. Um, John Warner Klug was a TV mogul who won his place on Forbes' richest man in 1987, selling the TV stations held by Metro Media for $4 billion, now operated by Fox. These stations formed the basis of Fox Television. Unfortunately, the family fortune was split up and eventually squandered when the Kluges got divorced. Kluge's ex-wife got $1 million per year in a settlement in a split and a 200-acre estate where the couple had lived. Due to a bad choice to invest all her money in a vineyard, she went into significant debt and her property was foreclosed on. The vineyard and the winery was snapped up in 2012 for a fraction of the market by Donald Trump, who eventually purchased the mansion out of foreclosure. Right? The Hartfords. The Hartfords. The family fortune was built on George Huntington Hartford, who was turned the original company from a small chain of retail tea and coffee stores into America's first grocery store chain. You may have heard of this grocery store chain, A&P. A&P is big. A&P was big in the South. It was a big chain. It was the Walmart before Walmart. Um, However, when Huntington Hartford inherited his family fortune and a $1.5 million a year income, he squandered most of it through failed businesses and lavish lifestyles. After 156 years in business, A&P closed their stores in 2015. Hartford went bankrupt and lived out his final years in a modest home in the Bahamas. 156 years. You were rich for 100, your family was rich for 156 years, and now y'all have nothing. You got nothing, right? You know who this is? The Pulitzers. The Pulitzer, the actual award. This is where they came from. Let's talk about it. And we'll do the video after this. He established this at Columbia. He donated to have this journalist award. He gave millions to have this award, right? But Joseph's grandson, Peter Pulitzer, was the first to drive the family fortune into its downfall. His 800-acre citrus farm in Florida was threatened with foreclosure after the disease ruined the trees. Through the documentation from his divorce estimate, Peter Pulitzer's net worth of 25 million. In the end, his ex-wife's husband had to bail him out by getting a new mortgage and a line of credit for the citrus grove. His ex-wife, right? Anybody remember the Strohs? Remember that beer? It's a beer. German immigrant Bernard Stroh came to America in 1850 with $150 and a beer recipe in his pocket. At 28 years old, established his brewery in Detroit, producing the Bohemian-style Pilsner. It says Stroh's sons continued to expand the business, but by the 1980s, they had the third largest brewery in America and a family fortune of $700 million. Unfortunately, the company had to take a massive debt to expand, and competition from American brands like Coors eventually killed the business. So bad business practice here. They blew 700 million. 700 million. Welcome to Foolish Finance Fridays. This is what we do. Foolish Finance Fridays. So let's get into the little animation here. Little animation. This should work. Let me know if you can hear this. Let me make sure it's turned up. Y'all hear that? No sound. All right. Oh, that is Safari. I mean, that's not Safari. I thought it was Safari. Mm.
Hands on a 200.
All right, let's go. And we were on. All right, so I think it picks up right here. We're going to make that bigger there. And let me hop down here and see how I can make that bigger there.
USA was growing into the powerhouse it is today. A lot of families were getting rich. This was called the Gilded Age. Some made a fortune from things like the gold rush, while others just had great ideas. Thanks to a guy called Levi Strauss, we got blue jeans, something he invented during the gold rush for people who needed sturdier work pants. He amassed great wealth thanks to his nifty invention. Prior to this, some of the wealthiest people were plantation owners, merchants, statesmen, and then came the bankers, real estate moguls, and those working in the oil and railroad industry.
I want you to listen to hear what he said. Some people became wealthy because they were plantation owners. You see how they just threw that in there? They became wealthy because they were plantation owners. Right, right. Out there in them crops, out there in them fields, cotton, that's the everything, right? Everything. So let's get back to it.
In the 20th century, others made fortunes too, or should we say fickle fortunes. Some families managed to retain their wealth while others lost it all, or most of it. Those are the people we'll talk about today, the Pulitzers. We'll start with a name we think many of you will be familiar with. The reason you might have heard the name is because there's an award called the Pulitzer Prize. This is given to people who have created something great, either in literature, journalism, music, and more. But do you know why we have this prize at all? Well, that's because a man called Joseph Pulitzer gave Columbia University a bunch of money to start a journalism school in 1892. This was the world's first journalism school. Joseph had amassed quite a fortune in the newspaper business and wanted a country full of great reporters. He got depressed, sick, and died. But in 1917, his name lived on when the first Pulitzer Prize as we know it today was awarded. But that's not why we're here today. What we want to know is what happened to all his cash. The answer is his grandson Peter Pulitzer invested a lot of that fortune in an 800-acre citrus farm. But that didn't go well because the trees got sick from something called citrus canker. This is a bacterial disease that destroys the trees. We're told this would have ruined him, but the husband of his ex-wife bailed him out. That saved the citrus operation, so while Joseph didn't exactly lose it all, he would have without a little help from his friends. The Strohs. This family we doubt you've heard of, unless you're a big beer fan. The story goes that a young man, Bernhard Stroh, had learned how to make beer in his native Germany. But during the German Revolution, he went to the USA with $150 in his pocket and a recipe to make a decent beer. At age 28 in 1850, he started a brewery in Detroit, and his son, Bernhard Stroh Jr., took over after him. Prohibition obviously wasn't good for these beer makers, and they branched out into non-alcoholic beer and ice cream. When that ended, the beer company just went from strength to strength, and it's said by 1978 the Strohs were pumping out 6.4 million U.S. beer barrels to thirsty Americans. According to Forbes magazine, in the 1980s, the Strohs were rolling in dough with a fortune of $700 million. Then came the decline. Apparently, the new generation got into serious debt after some shaky acquisitions. Then came some other mighty brewing companies such as Miller and Coors, and the Strohs got left behind. In 1999, after brewing beer for 149 years, the company was done and taken over by other brewers. That $700 million fortune was gone. The then company president, John Stroh III, said in a statement, "Emotionally, it was an extremely difficult one to make, knowing that it would impact our loyal employees and recognizing that it would mean the end of our family's centuries-old brewing tradition that had become, in essence, an important part of our identity." The Hartfords. So far, we haven't had anyone who lost their fortune from living what you might call a playboy lifestyle, but with the Hartfords, we do. Before we get to the big spending kid of the family, we'll tell you how these people got their money. A man named George Huntington Hartford had taken over a business called the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. While he was head of that, he branched out into grocery stores and supermarkets under the name A&P. This became massive, a name as big as McDonald's is today. In fact, you might hear it being called the Walmart before there was a Walmart. In the 60s, it was the biggest retailer of any kind in the USA, and in the 70s, it was at least the biggest chain of grocery stores. Everyone went to A&P. At its peak, it had 15,709 stores in the USA, and as you can imagine, it made the Hartford family very, very rich. They were ranked as one of the wealthiest families in the USA for a while, so what could possibly go wrong? Well, it was basically competition from more modern stores starting in the 50s. They tried to keep up but kept failing. Over the decades, it closed hundreds of its stores, got hurt badly by the Great Recession in the 2000s, and finally filed for bankruptcy in 2015. And like that, it was gone. But there was still cash around because we're talking about extreme wealth here. Now we can talk about the playboy. His name was Huntington Hartford, and according to various reports, he squandered his massive inheritance. He hung out with stars, bought fast cars, big houses, lots of artwork, and we're told he lost it all. That was the end of the Hartford fortune. The Kluges. This story begins with something called Metro Media, which was a media behemoth. It was taken over by the German-American entrepreneur John Kluge in the 1950s, and he expanded it and made a lot of money. In the 80s, he sold it to 20th Century Fox Film Studio, and at one point, Forbes had him as the richest man in America. The billionaire later turned to philanthropy and did things like invest $60 million to build the John W. Kluge Center. In fact, he donated millions all over the place. So again, what could possibly go wrong? Well, it seems Mr. Kluge was never settled in his relationships, and he got married 4 times. Now, we don't exactly know where all his cash went, but we do know that one person who did get quite a lot of it lost it all. Her name, Patricia Kluge, one of those wives. After her divorce, she got her hands on a 200-acre estate and $1 million per year in the divorce settlement. She bought a vineyard and tried to expand it, which got her in lots of debt. There was then a real estate crash that ruined her, and she declared bankruptcy. As for her vineyard, it was bought by the man who is now President of the United States, Donald Trump. The Vanderbilts. We'll finish with one of the most well-known wealthy families in the USA. Their story starts with a man named Cornelius Vanderbilt, the son of American Dutch parents. As a young boy, he worked on his father's ferry in New York Harbor. He was only 11. At age 16, he wanted to do his own ferry business, and he borrowed a bit of cash to start his own operation, taking people between Staten Island and Manhattan. You just couldn't hold this boy back, and he was well known for his entrepreneurship. At 19, he married his first cousin and got busy at home as well as at work. What we mean by that is
I just wanted you to see. I'm gonna finish it. I just wanted you to see how bad. Like again, I talked about risk. I started off with risk. You can see the risk that have wiped out families, continually wiped out families. Right. He married his cousin. The woman invested and bought that 200-acre citrus farm. Did she talk to a financial advisor? Who recommended this? Who recommended this? Who recommended this? Who recommended these things? So this is why I say you got to talk. You got to have these conversations, right? You got to have these conversations. Huntington, why is you spending money on women like that? 4 marriages? What we doing? What we doing out here? We getting jiggy with it? Like, what are you doing? Right? Let's get back to it. Let's finish it off. Because yes, Don, they had kids. I'm gonna go back a little bit so we can hear from where they at. But yeah, it looked like they had kids.
Island in Manhattan. You just couldn't hold this boy back, and he was well known for his entrepreneurship. At 19, he married his first cousin and got busy at home as well as at work. What we mean by that is he had 13 kids. He eventually branched out into regional steamboat lines and ocean-going steamships, and after that, built a railroad empire and all kinds of other businesses. At the time of his death in 1877, he had amassed $100 million. According to an inflation calculator today, that would be $2,382,319,635. Quite a bit of cash. And you know what? He left 95% of that to one son called Billy, because he believed this son was capable of running his empire. Billy did just that and more, doubling the family's wealth in his lifetime. But it seems this family just ran out of steam when it came to making cash. And over the years, the fortune dried up. Some of the Vanderbilts over the years would do well, but none remained ultra wealthy. And that's why some people talk about the fall of the House of Vanderbilt. Is it really that good anyway to be born rich? In a book about the family, the author wrote that one of the grandsons of the great Cornelius once said, "Inherited wealth is a real handicap to happiness." There's plenty of different ways to lose your money, and we're betting that if we made this video again in 10 years, at least one family would have lost their fortune to something that's becoming more and more common every day: hacking. But you, being the intelligent infographic show viewer that you are, will rest easy because you'll have Dashlane, the one and only tool you need to keep your personal info and digital accounts safe and secure. And in addition to that, their dark web monitoring services will immediately www encryption. Don't forget to like.
But I wanted you to hear the video the way I heard the video. I kind of glassed over some of the stuff in the thing, but yes, they marrying cousins and keeping it in the family. 13 kids who might have probably married each other later on down the line. Who knows? He was out with other people. Like, come on, right? So you'll know, right? These people who got wealth, got ultra wealth and stuff like that, you know, like that Hispanic family when she would married her cousin, but they were 8th removed from the family, but they had been together forever, right? Yeah, but first cousins is close, right? So yeah, Foolish Finance Fridays, the risk edition. We've seen somebody borrow $500,000 from friends and family and can't pay it back. We have seen families lose their entire wealth of centuries of wealth, right? We have also seen where Black women are not investing and are the least likely to be investing. Change the narrative, especially 60 and older, and even I would even say between 40 and 60. Change that narrative. And we also have seen where what your risk is. What do you know about risk? Do you have a backup plan to risk? What were their backup plans when you think about those families? What were their backup plans? All right, what were their backup plans? Again, can you grow without having risk? Right? Can you grow without having risk? Right? And I'm going to pull this over because I was just looking up here about A&P. It was a grocery store. I remember the chain. I used to go in A&P. This is back in 2015 on Business Insider. They filed for bankruptcy in 2015. A&P lined up 120 bidders for of its 296 stores with a total proceeds of 600 million. Right? It was used to be the top grocery store in the U.S. Used to be the top grocery store in the U.S. They didn't evolve with over time with everything else. And so competitors like Whole Foods and Kroger appealed more to customers, right? With organic food and healthy foods, right? Um, gone is the era when the supermarket shoppers thought in terms of basic milk, eggs, a six pack of soda, and a pound of chopped meat. Now they're going gourmet or organic these days. That quart of milk could just as well be GMOs free soy milk, and that has paved the way to such contemporary brands such as Whole Food, Trader Joe's, and the Fresh Market. Right? People are starting to gravitate more towards specialized stores. Larger grocers with so many different products can be looked at as overwhelming, even an annoyance to some customers. Even in the specialty stores like a Fresh Market and stuff like that, you still got 10 different jams. You still got 10 different eggs. You still got 10 different bacons and still 10 different types of sausages. It's still the same thing. It's just not a bigger store. They're a little smaller. All right. But again, not adjusting with time. They didn't take the risk. They've been had that brand for so long. They didn't take the risk. They didn't do a market analysis to see what people were looking at. What would they coming in the store to shop for? What were they looking for? Getting out there and asking the questions, right? So therefore, they had to go and shut it on down, right? They lost all their fortune. They lost all their fortune. And this article is back in 2015, right? So think about this for yourself. If you don't adjust with time, you become obsolete. If you don't adjust with time, you become obsolete. So what are you going to do to not become obsolete? You're going to have to take a risk. You're going to have to take a risk. We have so much data out here now, and so many different ways to gather that data that you can take a calculated risk, and on top of that, come up with a backup plan to that risk, right? Calculated risk, come up with a backup plan to that risk, right? That's all I have for y'all today. I wanted to talk about risk. I wanted to talk about family fortunes and how just people just blowing through cash. And what are some of the things that people are taking risk in, and how did they lose it all? How did you lose it all? What did that look like? I'm trying to make sure I covered everything. I'm going through my notes here. Oh, I think I had one more article. I think I got one more article. Let me double verify. No, that ain't it. Let me look. I was one more article. It was a Market Watch article. I had skipped over it. That's Elon Musk. Did it Charles Schwab? Mm, that's oh yeah. Here we go. This one here. All right, last one, and we'll get out of here. My brother-in-law has menial jobs, borrows money, and lives with his parents. Will I be his keeper after his parents are gone? Will I be his keeper after his parents are gone? This came out in April 19th. It was updated on the 21st. He has little to no savings despite lived at home for roughly the last 10 years. Mm, we know some people like that. Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my brother's keeper? Isn't that from Spike Lee? Don't Spike Lee do that? All right. I'm looking for your advice about a tricky family situation. I have a brother in law, Mark, who is not financially competent and who still lives at home with his parents, despite being in his mid 40s. Mark has in the past lived on his own with a partner, but that relationship ended a number of years ago. Since then, he has lived at home and bounced from one menial wage job to another. Right? Blow it up a little bit more so you can read that as I go along. All right. He has little to no savings. Yeah. Okay, we did that one. Okay. All right, yeah, we didn't. He has little to no savings despite having lived at home for roughly 10 years. He also has no credit cards because he ran up large debts and his parents made him get rid of the cards and begin to pay down his debt. Despite this, a few years ago, they allowed Mark to purchase an expensive new vehicle that likely required them to co-sign his loan. To my knowledge, many of his bills go to his parents, who he then pays to live at their home. In my mind, they're continuing to aid in this bad financial behavior. Bad financial behavior? That what you came up with? You the problem. This tricky part of the story is that Mark had may have an undiagnosed autism disorder. His parents have speculated this to be the case for a long time now, but no one has ever raised this concern with Mark himself. It is New Jack City. Yeah, okay. If my in laws feel this strongly about his possible condition, I feel that we owe it to him to share their thoughts and hopefully get him the help he needs to transition to a more independent lifestyle. He has the capacity to both live on his own and hold a job. My in laws are in their early 70s and they will not be around forever to take care of Mark. They're already retired and live on a modest fixed income. Naturally, I'm worried about what will become of Mark once they are no longer in the picture. Just the other week, he asked my wife for gas money because he was short until his next paycheck. From a financial perspective, there will be no large inheritance to pass down to Mark, and what little money he does receive will likely be squandered shortly after he receives it. I fear it won't take long before he looks to me and my wife to bail him out of any financial pickle he finds himself in. I have two young kids who I'm diligently setting aside college money for, in addition to saving my own retirement. Adding another grown adult to the mix that I would need to financially support is untenable. I want to outline my concerns to my in laws so that we can begin to help Mark move into a better situation. It sounds like an insurance play to me. Sound like Mark may need to be a beneficiary with somebody to watch over him. However, both his undiagnosed medical condition and estate planning seem like taboo topics to raise to them. What guidance can you offer? Am I my brother-in-law's keeper? What say you, chat? Does the brother-in-law move in with you? Do you take care of him? He 40 something and he got expensive taste. He 40 something and he got expensive taste. All right. Does it say what he does? What who does what for a living? Mark or the brother or the husband of the sister? Mark don't do anything. Mark don't work. And if he do work, it sounds like he working at Domino's. Mark don't have nothing. He don't have no credit card. He don't have no wealth. He don't have nothing. And I don't know why they wait to now. Why they didn't get him tested a long time ago? Poor parenting. Yeah, Mark is dependent. All right, you're not legally responsible for your brother-in-law. As I told this letter writer, you can do what you're able while all parties are still here to help prevent a worst case scenario. But good news is there's a lot. But the good news is there's a lot you can do. In fact, there's a lot we can all do for our family members, friends, and acquaintances by keeping an eye on each other. We humans are a tribe. Your brother-in-law may or may not have autism, which is a complex, varied diagnosis. Many people with autism lead full independent lives, and yes, people with autism do not need support throughout their life. You can give their support without viewing it as a zero sum game of either. I need to support him financially, or I would do nothing at all. You can help your in-laws formulate a plan for a future based on their assets. Autism Society has some guidance. The financial security many individuals with autism depends upon such public benefits as Medicaid and supplemental security, SSI. The society also notes that a special needs attorney can help determine whether a person may be eligible for government assistance. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, commonly known as Section 8, a federally funded program for to help low-income tenants afford rent, is also an option. Renters and landlords work together, with the landlord receiving a subsidy from the Public Housing Authority and the renter paying the difference. However, these vouchers are competitive, and only about one quarter of the people who apply end up receiving one. An estate planning and elder attorney based in New York offers these tips: build the consensus from other siblings or concerned members. Don't put off the conversation too long. Select a calm, private time and place. Decide who will be bringing up the topic and leading the conversation. Better to focus how you care about your in-laws and offer to research or help participate in meetings. Now, if they don't want to talk, I'm gonna say she need to get some insurance, and she need to get some insurance on her parents or something, or she need to get or they need to put the parents and them need to put something into some type of a savings account or annuity where he can draw on it every month. Get him some housing, get him something nearby, and check on him. If he can drive, because he got an expensive car, he can drive. He know how to read and pass the exam to drive, right? He asks, don't be accusatory during the conversation. If you start, you didn't plan, or you're enabling him, that conversation will not go well. Your in-laws may wish to set up special needs trust, or those are not considered income for government means testing. This will provide your brother-in-law a modest income that will help him with meet his financial obligations for utilities, food, and rent. Now, can't he get Social Security from his parents if they pass away? Can't you get your parents Social Security if you special needs? I wonder. I don't know. Right? While helping prevent him from making financial decisions he may regret it later. If Mark parents don't have a lot of money, perhaps they can consider using a second to die life insurance policy to fund the trust for Mark's benefit. Right? That's important right there. Boom. If Mark's parents don't have a lot of money, perhaps they can consider using a second to die life insurance policy to fund the trust for Mark's benefit. All right. So those of you out there that may have autistic kids, or it may be your only child, or you're not sure, take a look at that. Right. Mark is living his best life. Right. It's called a second to die life insurance policy. Mark has a responsibility here too. If you and his parents continue to loan or give him money when he has nothing left at the end of the month, he may become reliant on your generosity to bail him out when he makes mistakes. You can help him budget for his income and expenditures and help him come up with a plan to make sure that he has enough money every month. I appreciate that you're worried about Mark and his future. You're coming from a good place. It can be a challenge for all of us to act from a place to support and service rather than a place of fear, especially when we feel under pressure, rightly or wrongly. Obligation to become someone's sole source of support is a balance, and you can set boundaries now. You have a family to raise and a retirement to plan for, so you must obviously put that first. All right. So that's what I wanted to go over. Check out those that have special needs and what have you. Check that out. Those that are worried about what the risk to take and whatnot. $5. Start off $5 a month. You can do it on Cash App. DCA your way in. Look up an aristocrat. Look up a king. Buy $5 worth for each. $5 of a king. $5 of an aristocrat. You know it's going to have increasing dividends over 25 to 30 years. 25 to 50 years on those, and keep it simple. Don't make life such a hard, right? Don't make it so hard on yourself. Ladies, invest. Fellas, invest. Those that are 50 and over, continue to invest, or at least start to invest if you have not. If you have not started to invest, the time is now. Go ahead and invest. $5, right? $5. Start small. I'm not asking you to put $1,000 away or whatever. I'm asking you to put $5 away. You probably eat $5 worth of Krispy Kreme donuts, $5 worth of Snickers, $5 worth of catfish, $5 worth of Snapper, $5 worth of Popeyes, $5 worth of ginger beer or whatever beer you drink or whatever drink you drink, Casamigos or whatever that is. Hey, put $5 away. All right. Tell Casamigo, not today, sir. Not today. Back up. All right. All right. Until then, I catch y'all. I don't think we're gonna have one in the morning. I'll double verify on that because the game is going on in the morning. So again, we'll catch y'all on the flip. All right, bye.